The night sky burned red, the moon rising heavy and low over the dark land. Its glow poured across the dead forests and broken ruins, painting everything in a shade of blood for generations. People had whispered about this night. The night when the curse would stir again. Far away from his home, a human warrior named Kale walked the silent path. His boots crushed the ash that lay like snow on the ground. The air smelled of smoke and iron. Heavy with a strange cold, he had been told not to come here, warned by villagers who trembled even at the name of this land. Kingdom of blood and ash, they called it. Kale was no fool. He knew the stories. He knew that once vampires ruled these lands, powerful and immortal. They had built great castles that touched the sky. They had enslaved both humans and beasts. And when their kingdom finally fell, it did not die clean. Instead, it left behind ruins filled with shadows and things no man dared to name. Still, Kale walked on. His heart was restless, and something pulled him here. He told himself it was only curiosity, but in truth he felt a call, a strange whisper that haunted his dreams. And now under the blood moon he was here. The silence around him was wrong. Not even the owls called. Not even the wind moved through the black trees. It was as if the whole land held its breath, waiting. He tightened his grip on the sword strapped to his side. The steel felt cold against his hand. Suddenly a sound broke the stillness. A cry, faint at first, carried by the wind. Kale froze. His eyes scanned the dark woods. The cry came again. Sharper, filled with fear. It was no beast. It was a voice, a human voice. Without thinking, he ran. His feet carried him through twisted roots and over cracked stones. The cry grew louder, echoing like a ghost between the trees. His chest tightened, not only with effort, but with something else. A sense of doom. He burst into a clearing. The ground here was broken, deep holes where fire had once burned. At the center stood a ruined archway, its stones blackened. The cry came from beyond it, inside the ruins. Kale stepped forward carefully. His every sense screamed to turn back, yet his heart refused. He moved past the archway, and the air grew colder. Shadows twisted unnaturally along the broken walls. Like smoke alive, there in the darkness, he saw her. A figure crouched near the stones, her hair long and dark, her body trembling. She looked small, almost fragile. Her pale skin glowed faintly in the moonlight. Her eyes, when they lifted, gleamed like red fire. Kale's breath caught. Every tale he had heard rose in his mind. Vampire. The girl stared at him. Her lips parted, but no words came. Instead, a low growl rolled out, soft and broken. She looked weak, wounded, but still dangerous. "Stay back," Kale whispered to himself more than to her. His sword slid from its sheath, shining dimly. The girl's eyes flicked to the blade, then to him. She shivered. Not from fear, but from hunger. He could see it. The way her body leaned toward him. The way her fangs glinted when the moonlight touched them. Then before he could decide what to do, another sound came, a hiss deep and cold. From the shadows behind her, shapes moved, crawling out of the cracks in the ruins. They were not men nor beasts, but something in between. Twisted bodies with black skin and glowing white eyes. Shadow beasts, the kind that were said to guard the cursed land. The vampire girl turned quickly, her eyes wide. Her voice broke free this time, desperate and sharp. "Run," she cried. Kale's heart pounded. He should have listened. He should have turned back, but instead he lifted his sword. His voice growled with defiance. "I don't run," he said. The beasts circled closer. The air shook with their screeches. The girl stumbled backward, her strength fading, yet her gaze locked on Kale. Confusion in her fiery eyes. A human standing his ground before the shadows. The blood moon shone brighter above them. The land seemed to tremble, and in that moment Kale understood. This was no accident. He was meant to be here. Meant to see her, meant to fight. The curse had awakened, and so had his fate. The ruins were not silent anymore. The sound of the beasts echoed against the broken stones, their screeches sharp and unholy. Kale's sword glimmered in the red light of the blood moon as he faced them. His breath came heavy, but his stance was firm. The vampire girl stumbled, her legs weak, her hands pressed against the stone wall as if the weight of the curse itself pressed her down. She looked at Kale with confusion. Her kind had always seen humans as prey, but this one stood with steel in his hand and fire in his eyes. The shadow beasts lunged. Kale swung his blade, steel met darkness. His strike split one creature apart, its form dissolving into black mist. Yet more crawled forward, their glowing eyes fixed on him. Their claws tore at the ground as they circled. The girl whispered in a trembling voice. You cannot fight them all. Cale glanced at her but did not move back. His voice was calm but hard. Then I will die fighting. The girl's chest rose and fell. Something stirring in her heart she had long forgotten. Honor. She stepped closer, though her body shook. Her hands lifted and her eyes glowed red like burning embers. The shadows froze for a breath, then hissed in fear. She shouted words in an ancient tongue. Her voice cracked, yet the air obeyed. The beast shrieked as fire spilled from her palms. Washing over the stones, the clearing lit like a dying sun. The creatures wailed before vanishing into smoke. Leaving behind silence and ash, Cale lowered his sword. His chest burned with exhaustion. The smell of smoke filled his lungs. He looked at her, his voice low. Who are you? The girl's face softened, yet sadness drowned her features. She whispered, I am no one. She turned away, her hair falling across her pale face. At least, not anymore. Cale did not believe her. He stepped forward, his boots crunching the ashes. You saved me, why? Her hands trembled. Her body leaned against the ruined wall as if her strength had left her. Because, she said slowly, I remembered what it meant once to protect. Before everything was taken from us, the blood moon hung above them, its glow painting her face in sorrowful red. Cale watched her closely, the fangs, the fire in her eyes, the aura of danger. Yet beneath it there was something else. Something broken. She finally spoke, her voice soft but heavy with memory. This was once a great kingdom of blood and ash. She raised her hand toward the ruined archway. Here stood towers of stone and silver. Here walked lords and queens who never knew death. Our kind ruled the skies, the lands, the rivers. Humans bent their knees before us. Her words grew sharp. Her eyes darkened. But power rots all. The throne became a curse. We fed on blood until nothing remained but hunger. We turned on each other, brother against brother, queen against king, and the shadows came. Cale listened, his chest tight. The stories of this cursed land were always filled with horror, yet hearing it from her lips made it real. She lowered her gaze, her voice breaking. I was a princess once, heir to the throne. But when the kingdom burned, I was left behind, alone, trapped between life and death, feeding only enough to survive, not enough to live. Her hands curled into fists. Her eyes shone with anger. I do not want the throne. I do not want their curse, but I cannot escape it. It binds me still. For a long moment, Cale said nothing. The silence of the ruins pressed on them. Only the crackle of dying embers filled the night. Finally he spoke, his voice steady. Then why call yourself no one? If you are still here, still fighting, then you are someone. The girl's eyes lifted to him, her face unreadable. For centuries no human had dared speak to her as an equal. They either begged for mercy or died in fear. But this man stood tall, his words firm. She stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. Why did you not run, human? You could have left me and lived. Cale's hand tightened on the hilt of his sword. His answer was simple. Because running leaves the world darker. Someone must stand. The girl's lips parted, as if she wanted to speak but could not find the words. Her heart, long frozen in centuries of ash, stirred faintly. She turned away before he could see the faint shine of red tears in her eyes. The ruins groaned in the night. The ground trembled softly. Cale looked around, his instincts rising. What is it? Her face grew grim. The shadows do not rest. When they are destroyed, they return stronger, hungrier. She stepped toward the broken archway. If you stay here, you will die. Cale's jaw clenched. But he did not step back. And if I follow you? The princess stopped, her pale figure outlined by the red moon. She looked over her shoulder, her eyes glowing faintly. Then your life will no longer be your own. The blood moon seemed to grow brighter. The night thickened somewhere deep in the ruins. Another cry echoed. Not human, not beast, but something far worse. The fallen kingdom was not dead. Its heart still beat in the ashes, waiting, and now Cale had stepped into it. The ruins stretched like a graveyard of stone. The air was heavy with ash, and the red glow of the blood moon made every shadow seem alive. Cale followed the vampire princess, though every part of his mind told him to turn back. His hand never left the hilt of his sword. The princess moved slowly, her steps light, almost silent. Her long dark hair swayed in the cold wind. Her figure was fragile, but there was power in the way she walked. Cale watched her carefully. She was dangerous, that much was certain. Yet she had saved him after some time. She stopped near a broken pillar. Her hand touched its cracked surface. Her voice was low. This place was once a hall of kings. My father sat here when he ruled the kingdom. Now it is nothing but dust. Cale's eyes scanned the ruins. He tried to imagine the place alive with banners, soldiers and shining thrones, but all he saw was emptiness. His voice was steady. If you are a princess, then why are you alone? She turned to him, her red eyes glowing faintly. For a moment her face was sharp, cold, as if his question had touched an old wound. But then her voice softened. Because my people destroyed themselves. They thought power was eternal. They thought blood could keep them strong forever, but hunger consumes everything. It turned us into monsters. Her hands curled, her pale fingers trembling. I refused the madness. I wanted to stop it. But I was too weak, too young. I watched my father burn. I watched my mother fall. I ran, and when I returned, nothing remained but shadows. Cale listened in silence. The pain in her words was heavy. He could feel it in the air around her. Yet he also felt the danger, a truth she did not hide. You feed on blood, he said carefully. His grip on his sword tightened. Her eyes locked on him. Her lips parted, and for a moment, Cale thought she would lunge at him. Instead, she gave a bitter smile. Yes, human, that is the curse of my kind. I have starved for years. Feeding only when the hunger was unbearable. I do not drink to live. I drink so I do not die. She stepped closer. Her presence was sharp, her beauty terrible under the red moon. Her voice dropped to a whisper. And you, standing before me, a man of flesh and blood, do you not fear me? Cale's jaw tightened. His heart pounded, but his voice was steady. I fear what you could do, but I will not run. For the first time, the princess looked at him with surprise. Centuries of humans had fled from her, screamed in terror, begged for mercy. But this one stood still. His courage unsettled her. It stirred something deep inside her. A sudden rustle broke the moment from the ruins nearby. Another shadow beast crawled forward. Its body twisted, its white eyes glowing. Cale lifted his sword instantly. But before he could strike, the princess moved. Her speed was inhuman. In a blur, she was upon the creature. Her claws flashed, her fangs sank deep. The beast shrieked, its body turning to smoke. When it was over, she stood there, her lips stained red. Her chest heaved with both hunger and shame. Cale stared. His sword lowered slightly. The truth was before him. She was both savior and predator, both protector and monster. The princess turned away quickly. Her voice was rough. Now you see why I walk alone. I am a danger to all. Even to you, but Cale shook his head. His voice was firm. You are more than hunger. I saw it when you fought them. You are not like the others. Her body froze. Her eyes widened. No one had spoken to her like that. Not for centuries humans had called her demon, cursed her name, hunted her, but this man said she was more. She stepped back, her voice uncertain. You speak as if you know me, but you do not. You only see a shadow. Not the truth. Cale's gaze held hers, steady and unbroken. Then show me, princess. Show me who you are. The silence that followed was heavy. The blood moon glowed brighter, as if it too waited for her answer. Finally, the girl lowered her eyes. Her voice was almost a whisper. My name is Seraphine, last of the royal blood. Last heir to the throne of vampires. The name hung in the air like a curse. Cale repeated it softly. Seraphine. Her heart ached at the sound. It had been centuries since anyone had spoken her name with respect. The world had forgotten her, but this human had not. She turned away, her voice trembling. If you walk with me, your fate will be sealed. You will never return to your world as the same man. The kingdom will not let us pass in peace. The shadows will come, and I cannot promise you safety. Kyle lifted his sword. His stance was strong. Then let them come. Seraphine looked at him. Truly looked for the first time. She saw not just a mortal, but something more. Perhaps the prophecy was true. Perhaps the bond between human and vampire could break the curse. The shadows stirred again, deeper in the ruins. The night was not finished. The blood moon watched over them, cold and red. And so began their journey together, the warrior of flesh and the princess of shadows. The night deepened, the red glow of the blood moon sinking lower, casting long shadows across the ruins. Cale followed Seraphine through broken arches and crumbling walls. His sword was still in his hand, though he had begun to realize steel alone could not protect him here. Seraphine moved ahead, her pale figure glowing faintly. Her steps were light, but her shoulders carried the weight of centuries. She stopped at a cracked stone altar covered in ash. Her eyes lingered on it and her voice came soft. Here. Blood was once spilled not for hunger, but for vows, Cale frowned, stepping closer. Vows. Her red eyes lifted to meet his, steady and sharp. Yes, a bond between mortal and immortal. A promise that linked their lives. Strong enough to break death in our kingdom, knights swore themselves to their lords with blood. But those vows also bound us. For good or for ruin. Cale's grip on his sword tightened. He sensed where her words were leading. His voice was calm but firm. You mean to bind me? Seraphine stepped closer, the air around her colder, yet filled with strange pull. Her voice lowered. If you stay by my side without the pact, you will die. The shadows will find you, tear you apart, but if I bind you to me, you will share my strength. You will walk with my power, yet your life will no longer belong to you. The air grew heavy between them. Cale's chest rose slowly. His heart warned him of the danger, but his soul burned with something else, a pull he could not explain. He studied her face. Her beauty was sharp, not gentle. Her eyes glowed with hunger, yet also sorrow. She was dangerous, but she was also alone, and in that loneliness Cale saw truth. What happens if I refuse? He asked, Seraphine's gaze hardened. Then you die, perhaps not tonight, but soon. This kingdom devours mortals, you cannot stand against it alone. Cale's jaw tightened. He turned his eyes to the blood moon above them. It glowed heavy and crimson like a silent witness. Then he looked back at her. And if I accept? Her lips parted. Her voice softened, though it trembled with weight. Then you will be bound to me, your life tied to mine. Your blood flowing with my curse. You will live as long as I live. You will fight as long as I fight. You will never again be only human. Cale's chest tightened. The choice was clear. One path promised certain death. The other chained him to a creature cursed by eternity. Yet deep inside, he already knew his answer. Seraphine stepped closer. Her pale hand lifted, cold but graceful. Decide now, warrior, for once the pact is sealed, it cannot be broken. Cale stared at her hand. His sword still weighed in his other. The stories of his people echoed in his mind. Never trust a vampire. Never believe their words. Yet his heart remembered the cry she gave when the beasts closed in. The fire in her eyes when she fought to protect. The sorrow when she whispered her name. Slowly, he sheathed his sword. His hand rose and took hers. Her skin was cold as stone. Her eyes widened at his touch. I will not run, Cale said. If I must walk in shadows, I will walk beside you. Seraphine's breath caught. For centuries, no mortal had dared speak such words. Her chest trembled, though she tried to mask it. She turned his palm upward. Her sharp nails pricked her own wrist, and dark blood welled. This is the pact, she whispered. Your blood for mine, your life for mine, once joined. Never undone, Cale did not flinch. Her blood dripped onto his hand, burning cold like fire and ice together. He bit the inside of his wrist, let his own blood spill. Seraphine's lips touched his skin, and the world seemed to shift. The ground shook softly, the air thickened. The shadows around them hissed and pulled back as if in fear. The blood moon flared brighter. Kyle's chest tightened as power surged through him. His vision sharpened, his heartbeat thundered yet steady. He felt alive in a way he never had before. Seraphine pulled back slowly. Her lips red with his blood, her eyes shone brighter. Her voice trembled as she spoke. It is done. Cale stumbled slightly, catching himself. His body hummed with new strength, but he also felt a chain coil around his soul. He was bound. He looked at her, breathing heavy. What have you done to me? Her gaze lowered. I have given you my curse, and my strength from this night forward. Your fate is mine. The silence between them was sharp. Cale should have felt fear, but instead he felt a strange calm, a certainty. Perhaps it was the blood binding them. Or perhaps it was something older. Seraphine turned away, her voice low. You will regret this, warrior. One day you will curse my name. Cale's voice was firm. We will see. From the ruins beyond, the sound of many footsteps echoed. Shadows rising again, stronger and hungrier. The pact had not gone unnoticed. Seraphine lifted her head, her red eyes fierce. Then let us see if your choice was wise. Cale raised his sword, his grip stronger than ever. The bond burned in his veins. He was no longer only a man. The pact of blood had been sealed. The ruins stretched further than Cale had imagined. Endless towers lay broken. Bridges collapsed into rivers of ash. The blood moon followed them above, casting its red light on every step they took. Cale walked beside Seraphine. His body still felt strange after the pact. His blood ran hotter, his senses sharper. The night no longer pressed on him like before. He could hear distant whispers, smell the iron in the air. His sword felt lighter, his muscles stronger. Yet along with the strength came a weight. He could feel Seraphine within him. Like a shadow in his chest, her presence bound to his soul. He did not know whether to fear it or trust it. Seraphine glanced at him from time to time. Her eyes careful, she too felt the bond for centuries. She had walked alone, and now she was tied to a human. It unsettled her, but also gave her a strength she had forgotten. They moved through a vast hall of ruins where statues lay broken on the ground. Faces of kings and queens shattered into dust. Seraphine stopped, her voice quiet. This was the Hall of Crowns. Here sat the rulers of my people. The throne once stood at the center. Cale studied the broken stones. He imagined the hall filled with banners and warriors. He asked, "And now?" Her red eyes narrowed. "Now it belongs to those who feast on death." As if her words had summoned them. The ground began to shake from the shadows of the hall. Figures rose, not living, not fully dead. Corpses with hollow eyes, dressed in broken armor. Their bones cracked as they moved. Their voices came in low growls. "Undead," Cale muttered, lifting his sword. Seraphine's face was grim. "They are bound to the throne. They serve until the curse is broken." The undead soldiers marched forward. Their blades rusted but still deadly. Cale stood ready. His new strength burned in his veins. His fear was sharp but his will unbroken. The first soldier charged. Cale struck fast. His blade cut through bone. The body fell but rose again, its hollow eyes glowing. Cale cursed under his breath. "They don't stay dead." Seraphine raised her hands, fire spilling from her palms. Her voice rang out in ancient words. Flames swept across the hall, burning the undead to ash. For a moment the way was clear. But then, from deeper in the shadows, another figure stepped forward. Taller than the rest, his armor black as night. His eyes glowing red like Seraphine's, but darker, colder. "A vampire lord," Seraphine whispered. Her lips tightened. "He was once my father's general." The lord's voice was deep, echoing through the hall. "So, the lost princess returns, and with her a mortal slave. How low the royal blood has fallen." Cale stepped in front of Seraphine, his sword ready. "He is no friend of yours." "I see." Seraphine's face was pale, but her voice was steady. "He wants the throne for himself if he takes it." "The curse will spread beyond these lands," the vampire lord laughed, a sound that rattled the stones. "The throne is mine already, and I will crush anyone who dares challenge me, even a weak princess clinging to a human's courage." The air trembled as he moved. His speed was unnatural, his blade clashed with Kyle's. The force sent Cale stumbling back, but he did not fall. His blood burned. His strength holding, he struck again, sparks flying. Seraphine joined him, her fire colliding with the Lord's darkness. The hall shook with the clash of power. Shadows roared, flames cracked. The undead shrieked around them. Cale fought with all he had. His muscles burned, his heart thundered. Every strike he made felt guided by the bond within him. He was not fighting alone. He felt Seraphine's power flowing through him. At one moment, the vampire lord struck Cale down to his knees. His blade raised to finish him, but Seraphine screamed, throwing herself forward. Her flames burst brighter than before. Driving the lord back, she knelt beside Cale, her hand on his shoulder. Her voice sharp, "Stand, warrior, you are mine now." "And I will not let you fall." Cale rose, his body trembling but his eyes fierce, his sword lifted again. "Then we fight together." They moved as one, Cale's blade cutting, Seraphine's fire burning, their bond guiding each strike. The vampire lord staggered under their combined force. His armor cracked, his body burned. With a final strike, Cale's sword pierced his chest, and Seraphine's fire consumed him. The lord's scream echoed as his body fell into ash. The hall grew silent. The undead crumbled, their bond to him broken. Cale leaned on his sword, gasping for breath. His body ached, but he stood. He turned to Seraphine. Her red eyes glowed not only with power, but with something new. "Respect? You fought well," she said softly. Her lips trembled before she added, "Perhaps better than many of my own kind." Cale wiped the ash from his face, his voice steady. "I told you I do not run." For the first time, Seraphine allowed herself a small smile. It was faint but real. In that moment, the blood bond between them grew stronger, not just in power but in trust, but far above them. The blood moon burned brighter, as if watching, and deep within the kingdom, whispers stirred. The fall of one vampire lord had awakened the others. Their journey was only beginning, the throne still waited, and many enemies yet stood in their path. The night was colder now. The blood moon sank lower, its red light dimmer but heavier. Kale and Seraphine moved through the broken streets of the fallen kingdom. The battle in the Hall of Crowns had left them both drained, yet neither dared to stop. Ash rose with every step, the ruins whispered. And sometimes Kale thought he heard voices calling his name. He gripped his sword tighter. His body was stronger since the pact, but his heart grew heavier. The bond burned inside him, tying him to Seraphine. Yet it also weighed like chains. Seraphine walked beside him. Silent, her face pale, her eyes glowing faint. She had not spoken much since the battle. Kale wondered if she too felt the bond tightening, pulling them closer with every step. They stopped near a broken tower. The air was still, but Kale felt watched. His instincts burned, his hand rested on his sword. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward. He was tall, clad in black armor, his face pale but not as cold as Seraphine's. His eyes glowed faintly gold instead of red. His voice was deep but calm. So the princess lives, and with her, a mortal bound in blood. Seraphine's eyes narrowed. "Raylos," she spat, her voice filled with venom. "I should have known you would crawl from the ashes." Kale raised his sword, his stance ready. "Another of your kind?" Seraphine's face tightened. "A rival, he seeks the throne as well. Do not trust a single word from him." Raylos smirked, his gaze moving to Kale. "Do not trust her, mortal. She has bound you, made you her servant. You feel it, don't you? The weight of her chain around your soul. You are no longer free." Kale's chest tightened. The words struck true. The bond was real. His life was not his own. He felt Seraphine in his blood. Her hunger, her sorrow. Raylos stepped closer, his voice smooth like silk. "I offer you freedom. Break the bond, stand with me, and I will give you back your life. You will walk as your own man again, not as a puppet tied to a cursed princess." Kale's grip on his sword faltered for a breath. The thought of freedom burned. He remembered his village, his people, his life before stepping into these cursed ruins. He had been a man of flesh and blood. Now he was half shadow, half human. Seraphine's voice cut through the silence, sharp and trembling. "Do not listen to him, Kyle. He lies. He will use you and discard you. He does not care if you live or die." Raylos's golden eyes narrowed. "And you do? Tell him, Seraphine. Tell him what will happen when your hunger grows. Tell him how long before you drain him dry." Kale's breath caught. His eyes shifted to Seraphine. Her lips trembled, but no words came. Raylos laughed, low and cruel. "See, mortal. She cannot deny it. You are nothing but her blood source, her night of shadows, her toy. Break the bond, and I will set you free." For a long moment, Kale stood silent, his heart warred with his mind. Freedom called to him, but so did loyalty. He remembered the night he first heard her cry, the way she had fought beside him, the fire in her eyes when she swore not to let him fall. "Kyle," Seraphine whispered. Her voice cracked. She stepped closer, her pale hand trembling as she reached for him. "I did not bind you to use you. I bound you because I could not bear to lose you. She stopped, her words breaking. Raylos sneered. "Pathetic. Do not fall for her tears. She is a monster. And monsters cannot love." Kale's heart pounded. He looked at Seraphine, her eyes burned with red light, but they also glistened with something he had never seen before. Sorrow, maybe even love. He raised his sword, pointing it at Raylos, his voice steady. "I choose my path, and it is not with you." Raylos's face darkened. His golden eyes turned cruel. "Then you will die with her." The ground shook. Shadows rose around him, forming twisted soldiers of smoke and bone. The air filled with shrieks. Kale tightened his grip, his body stronger than fear. Seraphine stood beside him, her eyes fierce once more. "You had your chance," Kyle growled. "Now face us." The battle exploded. Kale's blade cut through shadows. Seraphine's fire roared across the ruins. Raylos moved like lightning, his blade striking with deadly force. Kale staggered under the weight of his blows. But each time Seraphine's fire shielded him. Each time their bond held them together. At one point, Raylos drove his blade toward Kale's heart. But Seraphine stepped in, the strike tearing across her side. She gasped, falling to her knees. Kale's eyes widened, rage burning in his chest. He struck with all his strength, driving Raylos back. Raylos hissed, his golden eyes blazing. "This is not over, mortal, nor you," cursed Princess, and with a swirl of smoke, he vanished into the ruins, leaving silence behind. Kale dropped to his knees beside Seraphine. Her pale skin was colder, her blood staining the stones. She looked at him weakly, her lips parting. "You chose me." Kyle held her hand tight, his voice firm. "I told you, I do not run." Her eyes softened. For the first time in centuries, she felt warmth in her frozen heart. Even in the ashes of betrayal, a fragile bond of love had begun, but far above, the blood moon pulsed darker, whispering of more trials yet to come. The blood moon hung lowest now, its glow heavy and deep red spilling across the land like rivers of fire. Kale stood at the edge of the great throne hall. His chest rose and fell as he stared into the heart of the kingdom. The throne stood in the center, carved from obsidian and silver, cracked but still shining under the moonlight. Shadows curled around it like serpents, whispering in voices not human. The seat of power, the curse of all. Seraphine leaned on him as they entered. Her wound from Raylos had weakened her, her skin pale, her steps trembling, yet her eyes burned sharper than ever. "This is where it ends," she whispered. "This throne holds the curse. Whoever claims it commands the shadows. But if we fail, the world beyond these ruins will fall." Kyle tightened his grip on his sword, his blood bond with her pulsed hot. He felt her weakness, her hunger, her sorrow, but also her strength. "Then we will not fail," he said. The air trembled. From the throne, shapes rose. Not one, but many. Lords of old, vampire kings and queens who had burned in the fall, their twisted forms now bound to the throne. Their voices filled the hall like thunder. "Seraphine," they called. "Child of our blood, you return to kneel or to die." Kale stepped forward, his sword raised, his voice cut through their whispers. "She kneels to no one." The shadows roared. A storm of black fire and claws surged at them. Kale swung his blade, his strikes guided by the blood bond. His body burned with power not his own. He cut through the swarm, though each strike left him shaking. Seraphine raised her hands, fire spilling from her palms. Her voice shouted ancient words, the hall lit with crimson flames burning away the shadows. The kings screamed, their forms twisting, but they did not fall. One figure stepped forward, taller, crowned in darkness. His voice shook the ground. "I was the first king, the founder of the throne. You are nothing but ashes of my bloodline. You cannot break me." He struck with power like a storm. Kale was thrown back, his sword skidding across the floor. His chest burned, his vision blurred. He gasped for breath. His body screamed to give up. Seraphine staggered, but she did not fall. She lifted her hand, blood dripping from her palm. Her voice cracked but strong. "You were king, but you became a monster. I will not be your shadow. I am Seraphine, last heir, last flame." The king laughed, cold and cruel. His claws stretched for her. Kale forced himself to rise. His body broken, but his will stronger, he grabbed his sword and ran forward. The bond flared in his chest, his blood and hers burning as one. In that moment, he was no longer only human. He was more. The blade glowed with her fire as he struck. His voice roared, "We fight together." The sword pierced the Shadow King's chest. Seraphine's fire poured through the blade. The hall shook. The throne cracked. The king screamed, his body tearing apart into ash and flame. The shadows wailed and dissolved. The hall collapsed in light. Kale fell to his knees, gasping, his strength nearly gone. Seraphine stood above him, her hand reaching. Her eyes glistened with red tears. She whispered, "It is done. The throne is ours. The curse is broken." The throne behind her cracked further, the obsidian splintering. The whispers faded, only silence remained. Kale looked at her, his voice rough. "Then take your seat, Seraphine. Take what is yours." She looked at the throne. Her lips trembled. "I never wanted it, but if I leave it empty, the curse will return." She stepped forward, sitting upon the broken throne. The blood moon glowed brighter, then began to fade. The hall filled with light. For the first time in centuries, The shadows retreated, the air no longer heavy with hunger, but with stillness. The curse had lifted. Cale stumbled to her side, his sword dragging on the floor. He knelt beside her. "It is over." Seraphine looked at him, her eyes softer now, glowing faint but warm. "No, Cale. It is only the beginning." She reached for his hand. Their bond pulsed, no longer a chain, but something stronger. He felt her warmth, her sorrow, her love. For centuries she had walked alone, and now she was not. The blood moon faded into silver. Dawn touched the ruins. For the first time, light returned to the kingdom. Cale knelt beside her throne, his head bowed. "Then I will stand with you as your knight for as long as I live." Her lips trembled, her voice soft. "Then you will live as long as I do." The kingdom of blood and ash began to rise again, not in darkness but in fire and hope. The throne of vampire had a queen, and beside her stood a human knight who had chosen not to run. Together, they had broken the curse. Together, they would face whatever came next.